unconnect from the Wi-Fi, because of course if I'm on the Wi-Fi on my Apple, it doesn't work. They gave me a lot of napkins. Oh, let's see what my toy is. It looks like a squishy. What's his name? Hello Kitty and Friends. His name is X. Interesting. Y'all, I had the best shower. I've been doing job applications all morning. I knew I had a Venmo account, but I didn't know how to get into it. So I worked on that this morning. This is hot mustard. Sometimes I can eat this, sometimes I can't. It just depends on the McDonald's. Sometimes it gives me a stabbing pain. I want to see what my burger looks like. Onions on the bottom again and one pickle. It's okay. We're going to add a little bit of the spicy mustard. It looks like there's seasoning on the burger too. Typical American cheeseburger from McDonald's. I usually get mine with extra pickles and onions because they don't put enough. But they were super busy, so I didn't want to bother them. I'm going to bite where the pickle is. Oh no. Did I get that on my sleeve? Spicy mustard. It is so hot today. I don't know what's going on. My truck says 57, but my body says 90, you know? I don't know why I've been super, like, hot. I'm going to go ahead and cut these off. I'm so sorry to my regular followers that have to listen to this stupidity. But, you know, it's 10 times worse in the real world. So I went down to Sheets to hook onto the Wi-Fi. And there's like 20 to 30 work trucks out there. They have the whole parking lot fenced off. They definitely are renovating the store. So I pull up in there. I don't know what's wrong with me sometimes. I pull up in there, find a parking spot, grab my debit card. I was going to go grab like some fruit, vegetables, like something to eat for lunch. And there's a manager in the parking lot that says, hey, we're closed. The whole store's closed. I said, okay, thank you. So violent. So violent. Chill out, lady. Alright, I'm kind of done with this. I'll eat the rest of it later. I got fry fingers now. I took the best shower. It definitely makes it a lot easier when there's a Planet Fitness, like, not even a mile down the road. I don't understand how it says that it's 60 degrees outside, but it's every bit of 90 on the inside of this truck if I do not have the air on. I need to start taking better care of this computer. Oh Lord, I got a hole in my lip. Did y'all see that? I just spit sweet tea everywhere. I felt it shoot my ear. My bounce off my hair onto my face. All right. Where is my book? Where is my... Oh, there he is. My bunny book. So there's a lot going on today. I want to update you guys on what's going on in Aurora, because I find it interesting that the governor is saying, oh, it's not an issue. No need to worry. Don't worry. Nobody panic. But yet the mayor of Aurora is saying, help me. We need help. If someone doesn't help us, I don't know what we're going to do. So we're getting conflicting stories. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the new Ozempic lawsuit that just happened. We're going to talk about what the drug is and if it's been on the market long enough or if it hasn't. And there's a few other stories that I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head, y'all. Y'all know my memory's bad. Immigrant stories. I'm going to start with the Ozempic because that's what I want to do. So as of September 3rd of this year, there were almost 900 lawsuits pending from Ozempic. I have personally known people that went to the doctor and they had diabetes and the doctor was trying to put them on Ozempic and they successfully did. I've known lots of people that are currently on Ozempic, and we were talking about it a little bit yesterday because Nick Avocado lost 250 pounds. He literally just went missing and was able to drop the weight so fast that nobody even knew that he was trying to lose weight. So he lost the weight pretty fast. Now, it seems like as the years go on, we're seeing more and more of the Ozempic lawsuits. Sorry. Ozempic is a prescription injectable medication that helps control blood sugar levels in adults with type 2 diabetes. It's also used to reduce the risk of heart attack, stroke, and death in adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease. Ozempic is the brand name for the active ingredient Semaglutide. I hope that I'm saying that right. Which is part of a group of drugs called the GLP-1 agonist. It works by helping the pancreas produce more insulin. Ozempic is injected weekly under the skin of the belly, thigh, or upper arm. The starting dose is 0.25 milligrams. And that's a starting dose, but we see people that are on much higher doses than that. Ozempic is used along with diet and exercise, and I'm telling you right now that the people I know on Ozempic are not dieting and they are not exercising. So I find that humorous that it says Ozempic is used alongside diet and exercise, but yet the people that are filing these lawsuits, we're not dieting and exercising. Most people that are on it, in my opinion, are not. Now, it can be used alone as a diabetic medication, or it can be used with other medications such as metformin and other insulins. While Ozempic is not approved for weight loss, some doctors prescribe it for that purpose. A lot of doctors are prescribing it for that purpose. And it says that Ozempic works by changing the body's metabolism and signaling fullness to the brain. Now, side effects include digestive issues like diarrhea, constipation, and vomiting. Other side effects include hiccups, dry mouth, inflamed pancreas, and hypoglemic, hypoglycemia. I don't know what I'm talking about. Hypoglemic. Why can I say hypoglemic? Because I'm hypoglemic. My sugar drops quite a bit. Very often when I go without eating, it causes me health problems. I can't say hypoglycemia. Yo, so funny. What is wrong? So Simuglide is an anti-diabetic medication used for the treatment of type 2 diabetes, and it's an anti-obesity medication used for long-term weight management. Now that is Ozempic. The issue though is that people are getting serious health complications to the point that they have to have organs removed, and it's not okay. I was trying to see how long the drug had been on the market, and it's not been that long. I would say less than 10 years, but it's really become a huge thing in the past like 5 years. Damn it, my freaking waffle. Oh, it's doing that thing where it's done kicked me off, so I can't see it. I can only see it. They shut the Wi-Fi off. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is my only source of income. How fucked up, but whatever. I already have my other tabs open, so it doesn't slow me down, baby. Let's see here. Millions of Americans have turned to prescription medications to lose weight and treat diabetes, but do drug labels weren't enough about potential side effects? Now, this woman, we're just going to call her Gant. Because I can't, it's Gantt. She was prescribed both Wegovy and Ozempic. She later needed emergency surgery, and she's now suing. This is the lawsuit that I was just talking about. She's always struggled with her weight, weighing 242 pounds at 62 years of age. And she's tried various diets, but none of them were working for her. Diabetes is rampant in my family, she said, and I knew that it all plays with weight, and I almost felt defeated and humiliated. I mean, why couldn't I lose the weight? You know, when I started my weight loss journey, losing weight was easy for me, but it wasn't like healthy. It was from stress, half of it, and the other half was because I was working out. But things would get better, and then they would get worse, and I would fluctuate because of my finances, because of stress, you know. Not eating is not okay. You need to be eating. So because of her diabetes risk, her doctor agreed that she was a good candidate and prescribed her Wegovy and later Ozempic, both GLP-1 drugs made by Novo Nordisk. Y'all, it's the company, the manufacturers. These pharmaceutical companies are the devil. She said that she was feeling fine. She enjoyed the days, and she didn't have to worry about her appetite. I didn't have cravings. I just felt like I was doing something positive for myself. Several months later, in October of 23, so this past October last year, her husband found her unconscious on the ground, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. So she was rushed to the doctor, and they found parts of her large intestines had died, and they needed to be removed. While recovering from surgery, she went into cardiac arrest, prompting the hospital to call her daughter to warn her that her mother could die. And she says that it breaks her heart that her daughter got that phone call. With her colon gone, she now lives with a colostomy bag, and that's not how they spelled it here. It's ILEOSTOM bag, but I thought it was called a colostomy bag or something, but obviously that's not how that's spelled. And she's got to have that for the rest of her life to collect waste because of this. She said that she had no previous warning that this was even a possibility. She's now suing the prescription drug maker, claiming its drug labels do not adequately warn patients and doctors about potential serious side effects, including gastroenteritis or stomach paralysis or bowel obstructions. I went and tried to figure out how to say that word 15 times, and I still can't nail it. I just listen to it and say it, and listen to it and say it. Stomach paralysis. How scary. All of it. So she says that the attorney of this woman who is suing Wegovy and the makers of Ozempic, the lawyer said it's put a lot of resources into marketing the drug, hundreds of millions of dollars to expand the market, getting new patients on the drug, but it hasn't spent that money on warning patients of the risk of gastroparesis. There you go. Small bowel obstructions, and the fact that these injuries can be severe. Now, as I told you guys, there's tons of these lawsuits popping up. Like, this is like, there we go. Not good at all. It's scary to think that you're supposed to be able to trust your doctor, and these doctors are doing this for money. I mean, they get kickbacks and stuff. The known risk and benefits of semi-glide medications are described in their FDA-approved product label. The allegations in the lawsuit. Oh, this is the lawyers for the drug companies. They're saying that this lawsuit is without merit, and they vigorously defend against these claims. About 15 million U.S. adults say that they've used injectable prescription drugs to reduce their body weight, according to Gallup. And while some say that the GLP #1 drugs are better known by brand names like Ozempic and Wegovy can have serious negative health effects, including nausea, vomiting, many doctors regard these drugs as key tools for patients. Yes, because they're making money. You have to be on this for forever. If you can get your body in the habit of doing healthier activities, God, getting sunshine, drinking more water, making an effort, those little things add up to big things. And it could add up to you living longer. What did it say the other day? That obesity can take up to 12 to 15 years off of your lifespan or something. So, sorry about my Wi-Fi, you guys. I brag about somewhere and then they do me dirty. Oh, here it is now. It might have timed out, but then when I went back to get on it, it didn't even give me the option. Sometimes it kicks me out of the system to where even if it times out, it's not there when I go back to try to jump back on it. It's like it's disappeared, like they've cut the router off or something. I don't know. Just very weird. What were we trying to look up a while ago? And I forgot. So, if you get a BMI that is above 40, your body mass index, that can take 6.5 years off of your life. And if you get up to 55% of BMI, that can take almost 14 years off of your life. Now, these are just expectancies. I read, yes, studies have found that obesity shortens life expectancy by up to 10 years. Obesity is the 5th leading cause of death worldwide, with at least 2.8 million people dying due to health complications related to their weight. For a year, I watched my grandmother not be able to take care of herself, suffer with extreme arthritis, gastrointestinal issues. It was completely messed up. Also, blood clots. She had massive blood clot issues, and it all stemmed from the weight. I think that diet and exercise should be put on the forefront when fighting this issue of obesity. I do not think that getting on another medication that is going to lead to another medication and then another medication is okay. This is how they get you. Being on medications like this, it is not freeing. You are trapped into, you are trapped in to these drug companies, and they own you. And heck, if you ever come off of it, you're just going to gain the weight back. And a lot of patients not only gain the weight back, but they gain more weight than they ever were before, which is even scarier. What if you go through a financial hardship and, your insurance is cut off, and that's another topic that's up for debate. How much of this should these insurance companies be paying for? Should tax dollars go to support people that want to take Ozempic? Because apparently that people are discussing that, if it's okay. And Yes, tax dollars are spent on Ozempic and other weight loss drugs, which can be a burden on taxpayers. And 2022 alone, Medicare spent $5.7 billion on drugs containing Semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. A demand for weight loss drugs increases, and so do the costs for some insurance plans, which are funded by taxpayers. State health plans and Medicaid offices are seeing large bills for Ozempic and other similar drugs being passed. Wow. Some prices, sometimes this can be over $1,000 a month for some patients. Some experts say that there just isn't enough information about the long-term benefits to justify the cost being paid by tax dollars. I think that if you want to do that on your own free will, go for it. But, we're trillions of dollars in debt. We got to figure out small ways to make big impacts. Once again, all of this money that is being wasted. Now, if somebody needs it for medical reasons, that is one thing. If they are diabetic, absolutely they need their medication. It's keeping them alive. It's a whole different thing if Kathy over here wants to she no effort to diet and exercise, but this is her quick out. Yeah. I think that you have to start with you if you want to be happy with you. And starting with you is taking the initiative to diet. And, diet doesn't have to be a bore. You guys see what I eat, and I'm still able to manage my weight. And some of that is from stress. I will give you that. But when I'm eating a regular 3 meals a day, it's not like I'm limiting myself. And I eat fairly normal things when it comes to my diet. Try to get those fruits, but not always. So a study published in October found a higher risk of bile obstruction and stomach paralysis for patients taking certain GLP-1s for weight loss when compared with another weight loss drug combination, though those complications were relatively rare. It is rare, but hold on one second. Let's go back to how long it's been on the market. It's not been that long. And look at what they did to us with Xanax. They marketed Xanax like it was the save-all, anxiety drug to help with anxiety, blah, blah, blah. And we now know Xanax has killed hundreds of thousands of people. It's caused people to be essentially, they fell in grips of addiction. And it took them how long to tell us, oh, wait a second, this is a problem. Maybe this is a huge problem. Maybe this does more harm. It does good. Not every patient needs Xanax. I specifically do not. And they try to put me on it. I'm telling you right now that I am not myself. I'm on Xanax. I'm a whole nother person and not a good person. And it has not been approved for weight loss. Once again, it is supposed to, by law, legally speaking, be used for patients who are diabetic. But, you know, money is money. So since December of 2017, not even 10 years, just a few years. That's a few years. Lord, I really do think that it's going to be one of those things that in 20 years, they're going to be like commercials on TV. Did you use Ozempic or any Wegovy products from 2007 to 2026? If so, you are qualified for compensation if you have a colostomy bag. I'm not saying that right. I need to figure out how to say that, and it might be different. Hold on. It says December of 2017. And it said when the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved it for treatment for type 2 diabetes adults, the 2 milligram dose of Ozempic was approved by the FDA in March of 22. I just think that pancreatitis, can't say that it can cause that though. It can cause issues in the kidney, gallbladder, thyroid, pancreatitis, muscle loss, diarrhea, vomiting, nausea. And sure, there's always going to be one or two isolated incidents, but there's more than a few. I think that that sticking to diet and exercise is the best way. So it's really important for parents to kind of put into context that their individual risk may be potentially low, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen to you. And I agree. It's scary to think that it's too scary for me. I could never take something like this. Y'all know how much I hate medications. Y'all know how much I hate drugs. In my opinion, this is just, you know, a legal drug. 44-year-old woman from Louisiana filed a lawsuit against the manufacturers of Ozempic, claiming the company failed to warn her about the stomach paralysis. Oh my God, she was admitted to the emergency room multiple times and lost her teeth due to vomiting. A woman from Goodrich, Michigan was hospitalized for 2 weeks due to pain, vomiting, and gastroenteritis after increasing her dosage of Ozempic. Some patients have reported feeling isolated, overwhelmed, and embarrassed to the side effects. They may also avoid social activities, especially those that involve food or bathrooms. Some patients have reported that the weight loss they achieve while taking Ozempic goes into reverse once they stop taking the medication. And I read y'all all of the symptoms. If you're on this, just please be careful. Trust your body. And if you feel like something is wrong, it probably is. Go to a doctor. Whoever's giving you this medicine, just be careful out here because these pharmaceutical companies are evil. Alright, let's jump over to the Aurora story. There's so many different issues in Aurora right now, between jewelry stores being robbed, pawn shops being robbed, apartments being taken over. We have the governor lying to us, telling us that it's not an issue. We have the citizens screaming that it is, along with the mayor. So, y'all remember we watched a video last week, and there was a video of 3 or 4 guys that went to an apartment complex, and it shows them trying to break in. I also posted another clip of a guy literally taking like what looked like a hammer, trying to beat off a doorknob of the apartment to get in. So some of those people were arrested. It says officials in Colorado have agreed to drop all Well, I guess that was what I was going to say. Agreed to drop all charges against the landlord of the Aurora complex that has been at the center of the violent Venezuelan gang takeover. So apparently they were going to charge this dude. It says the charges against the landlord also stem from his other property, which was shown in a viral video where members of the TDA, the violent Venezuelan migrant gang, took over the apartment by busting down the door with heavy artillery. So it says, in an agreement between the city and Gnome Partners, details that city officials agreed to drop dozens of charges against the Aspen Grove apartment complex landlord for failing to maintain the property. So the city had actually charged him. Remember, there was huge piles of trash out there. Apparently, there was all of these videos coming out of this gang taking over this apartment complex, and the apartment manager was charged. The agreement states that in exchange for dropping charges, this guy agreed to waive his right to a speedy trial, and Gnome Partners LC agreed to sell or lease the property and, among other things, pay up to $60,000 of the cost to clean up and secure the complex. So this is the same, remember, oh, sorry, I can't get you down. Oh, my phone is hot, honey. Why is it so hot? Hold on one second. I don't want it to go into emergency mode where it gets too hot. It says it's 57 degrees outside, y'all. That is not true. My phone is hot to the touch. So remember this video? That was the same apartment complex where they were trying to break that door down. So it says, this is the guy's name, and he owns the company that owns the apartment complex in Aurora. All right. Ouch. All right. It says the company that owned the apartments, they blamed the TDA gang for the takeover, causing the Aspen Grove apartments to deteriorate into unbelievable, uninhabitable living conditions. So one investigator told the Denver Post that police knew about the gang for over a year. They knew that it was an issue at this apartment complex, and the police would not help the apartment manager or the owner out whatsoever. And then one day, after these videos go viral, then the cops charge this man with crimes because it's a mess, and he hasn't even been to the property in like a year at this point. I think it was like 9 months he hadn't been saw. So it's just crazy to me how all of this, the dominoes fell. So it says, one investor said that the situation had gotten so bad, so far out of control, that they reached out to local officials seeking help to remove the TDA gang members, which the lawyer claimed had been forcibly taking control of the property. The property's landlord also inquired about hiring off-duty police officers to provide security for the property, a request that the Aurora Police Department reportedly declined. So, those 4 guys that kicked in this apartment complex door, these are the 4 that was arrested, and half of them was released on essentially no bond. On no bond. They just signed themselves right out. And y'all saw how they kicked in, or how they were trying to get in that door, how they have guns. These are young kids, you know, and this behavior doesn't change. They're only going to get worse with time, you know. So a Aurora police spokesperson told the Gazette in a statement that, quote, he was told we didn't have the staffing to provide adequate security at all of his properties, which I understand, but this is past the point of needing security. These homes, people have been kicked out of their homes that they paid rent for. Families have been completely uprooted and are now homeless People that lived in those apartments for decades. You know, once again, this was a primarily black community before these gangs started taking it over, okay? And it's not okay. It's not okay. And you know, here's what I'm trying to say. If it was, you know, apartments that were $5,000 a month in a whiter side of town, this would have never happened, in my opinion. And regardless of these people's skin color, it's messed up. I just had to point out that, you know, because of the circumstances, I do believe that has a lot to do with why the police did not jump in to try to help this situation. The apartment manager, the investors at this place, like, it's crazy to me. So scary. So apparently they're trying to pass a new bill. There is Republican, it says Republican Greg Lopez, Aurora, Colorado, is pushing the Biden administration to crack down on the presence of illegal immigrants involved with gangs inside of the United States. Introduced a new bill last week to combat migrant gangs. If passed, the bill would compel the Department of Homeland Security Secretary to issue detainers for migrants who are known by law enforcement to be affiliated with gangs. This is one of the several bills House Republicans have introduced since reports of crime of illegal immigrants have piled up in the cities and towns across the U.S. With million encounters every year, criminal networks, including the TDA gang, have taken advantage of the situation, and we are wreaking havoc on our communities. And we've covered both of these. We've talked about both of these cases. It says illegal immigrants have been accused in multiple high-profile killings in the U.S. this year, including Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungare. Federal officials believe the TDA is operating in the metro Denver area and terrorizing several apartment complexes around the city and neighborhooding suburbs. However, local politicians continue to insist that the hysteria around concerns about Venezuelan street gang members that are taking over apartments was overblown by the media. This would turn out to be a lie. Let's go to my favorite place of all. Reddit. Let's talk about how much of this is true and how much it ain't. And how much is like, let's talk to people that actually live in the city of Aurora. I can tell you that this feed you can find under Aurora. Sorry, one second. I'll tell you. Aurora Mayor. And so put in Aurora Mayor and Clark and you can see all of this. Reddit. Aurora Mayor Clark. Reddit. I live a few blocks away. This is Made with Magic. This was 11 days ago. I live a few blocks away and moved this weekend. The fact that they had the audacity to lie to the public on air speaks volume about their leadership. I promise y'all, in no ways are the public blowing the situation out of proportion. MFers are kicking doors down with automatic weapons and rifles and whatnot. And it's a pretty freaking deal, big deal. 40 plus shots and a few bodies the other night and every week is a pretty big effing deal. Families not feeling safe as they're scraping to get by is a pretty big effing deal. Anything to line their pockets with extra money from the government, I suppose. So, yeah. You know, it's beneficial for the state of Colorado if they want more funding for immigrants and stuff, if they have immigrants. And they do get funding for these people. Isn't it wild? This is Super Trooper Harvey Park. Isn't it wild that this is the only story on the front page about 3 apartment complexes being taken over by gangs? Behind posts about a hit and run, a missing dog, and how to report people for rolling coal? Am I going crazy? Why is this not higher up? You're not crazy. Robo some random. You're not crazy. Aurora is at a standstill. It's gone through a litany of police chiefs, high officer turnover rate. No one wants to be a cop in this atmosphere. Slow response times. No one's available. They don't want to advertise this inconvenient fact. So this person is saying that the cops, there's not many cops left in Colorado. Yeah, as of July 2nd, they have a recruiting challenges. Yeah, they have a police shortage. Yeah, it says Denver police is struggling to fill recruitment classes, falling short of Mayor Johnston's 24 budget goal. They only have 36 spots filled for their recruits, which begins on Monday. That's crazy. Y'all, well, that tells you right there why they got no help. One of the reasons why they got no help when these criminals were busting in doors and putting guns in their faces. I want to see if there's been any update. I didn't read all of this earlier because it was almost 2 o'clock. I want to see, this is a new thread that started last week. I want to see if there's any updates. So this is Boo Lab. The local news channels this morning are calling it all disinformation, and all of the stories on social media are lies, and that this is hurting the immigrant community. I'm sorry, but we have a real issue here, and you can't ignore it, but it's only going to get worse. People don't even want to go downtown anymore. Theft is rampant, and apartment complexes are dealing with issues all over the city. Look at all the issues at the Alcott. The city and management continue to ignore even after someone was shot there. The governor is saying that it's everyone's imagination that's the issue here. That infuriates me even more. Currently, there's a migrant shelter hotel out on Tower Road where there's a tuberculosis outbreak that also has MS-13 gang members. And the PD is saying they must go out with at least 2 cars when they get calls to address calls. So the cops are saying that they have to have multiple cars, at least 2, when they get calls in order to address that call. They just can't send one officer. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if they're short staffed, then I would assume. And if, let's not forget that these immigrants attack police officers in broad daylight in New York City. So you cannot you don't think that one cop would be able to handle multiple gang members at once. You can't put anything past them. So, here's an article. Let me see this. I've been staring at this computer so long that I'm like, my vision is blurry. Alright, let's go to the ones that they locked up. So it says 2 thugs from the notorious Venezuelan street gang, the TDA, were arrested in Colorado for shooting and are free on the streets of Aurora. 2 of these guys were involved in the video that I showed y'all last week, where they went to the apartment, they were banging on the door, they were trying to kick down the door, and then finally somebody opened the door and they went in there with guns. This is 2 of the guys. Dixon Perez, who is 20 years old. Nixon Perez, who was also a baby, 19. And they were arrested in recent days for an attempted murder on July 28 that happened at the Nome Street Apartments. This is one of the apartment buildings that was taken over by armed members of a street gang. Nixon and Dixon both were posted. They both posted $1,000 bond on their charges, and they are no longer in custody. So their bond was only $1,000. I mean, I just thought that right here, the other 2 guys are still in jail, but this one and this one got out. Dixon, Nixon, they're out of jail now. They posted $1,000 cash bond and got out. I'm just saying, for attempted murder, you would think that bond would be, I don't know, over $100 grand. It just doesn't make any sense. Both Dixon and Nixon are described as suspected members of the TDA gang, as the gang is known to federal law enforcement officials. Meanwhile, the other 2 subjects are known gang members. Nixon and Dixon, they're just suspected gang members. The other 2 are. And I'm telling you, if they're running together, you know, they are. If they're running together and the other 2 are gang members, then they are. You are who you hang around. If you don't want people to think that you're a gang member, don't be running around with gangs. How about that? Like, you're guilty by association. Absolutely. They were all arrested in connection to the same shooting and are all in custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but that's not true. The TDA is best known for its brutal ST women and girls, as well as the smuggling of their own countrymen. I just can't believe that they were allowed to get out of jail. I mean, I guess I can. That's what we talk about on this. It happens time and time again, right? Time and time again. I was going to go back to this Reddit feed and see the last thing that was posted. Some more people that live in Aurora. I guess that's it. So even though these guys were busted going into these apartments with guns and confronting families, and they were wanted for an attempted murder, even though they were still given bond and they're out free. It's just unbelievable. But best believe, if that was you or I, we would be in jail. Okay? We would be under the jail, honey. So I found something pretty interesting today. Going back to Project 2025, apparently the Heritage Foundation, who I love so much, they have an entire list of every single fraudulent voter fraud account. So anytime there was someone like Bruce here was charged with falsely registering for an absentee ballot on behalf of his deceased mother and deceased mother-in-law in the 2020 general election. These are every time that somebody cheated the system. Most of these are rather big, though. Like, they were caught with tons of ballots trying to See, here it is. Former U.S. Congressman. Let me read y'all some of these. I'm not going to do all of them, but this is exactly how voter fraud happens, and it's apparently not that hard to do. It's rather easy, and I found that interesting. Oh, by the way, if y'all want to donate to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to set this out somewhere. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. I got a Venmo, too. I had a card, but I didn't know how to get into my account because I haven't used it. Oh, at least you have a helmet on. Guy on a motorcycle. Glad he has on a helmet. We have laws in North Carolina. So the one on the bottom is Cash App and the one on top is Venmo. Anyways, I didn't know how to get into the account, so I figured that out this morning too. I had to do a lot of online baking stuff. My stuff from YouTube has not came yet. I guess it won't come till the end of the month. So anyways, so it says former U.S. Congressman Michael Ozzie Myers was charged with over 13 felonies for his role in orchestrating a scheme to stuff ballot boxes in favor of Democratic candidates he either favored or represented as a consultant. Myers, a former Democrat congressman who was ousted from office and served time in prison on charges of bribery and corruption due to his involvement in the Abscam sting, orchestrated schemes in Philadelphia's 39th Ward, the 36th Ward, and the 2nd Divisions to commit ballot fraud. He apparently conspired with multiple other people by bribing them. So it says the scheme occurred during elections between 2014 and 2018. He pled guilty to charges of depriving persons of civil rights, bribery, falsification of voting records, and conspiring to illegally vote in a federal election. Illegally voting in a federal election. Jesus, I didn't know you could catch all that. Ooh. So it says if his plea deal is accepted by the judge, he faces up to 60 years in prison and over $1 million in fines. He will be sentenced in September. Apparently this happens quite a bit. I'm going to read this guy. It says, Bruce Bartman was charged with falsely registering for an absentee ballot on behalf of his deceased mother and his deceased mother-in-law in the 2020 general election. A registered Republican, he used his mother's driver's license number and the last 4 digits of his mother-in-law's social security number to register them as Republicans in efforts to cast fraudulent ballots for Donald Trump. It wouldn't have helped you, bro. It wouldn't have helped. He pled guilty to 2 felony counts of perjury and 1 misdemeanor count of illegal voting. He was sentenced to 5 years probation and is barred from voting in any election for 4 years and is no longer eligible to serve on a jury. I mean, you did him a favor with the jury. Like, you did him a favor. Who wants jury duty? Oh, Ralph Holloway Thurman voted twice in the 2020 presidential election. After casting his vote, Thurman asked a poll worker if he could vote on behalf of his son. What? Thurman! Oh, God, Thurman. Really? And when workers informed him that that was not allowed, he left the building. Later that day, Thurman returned disguised in a hat and sunglasses and signed the poll book as his son, a registered Democrat. He signed the poll book as his son, a registered Democrat. Pollsters recognized him, notified the judge of elections, but Thurman had left before the officials could confront him. He pled guilty to 1 count of repeat voting a felony. Thurman was sentenced to 3 years probation and is barred from voting for 4 years as part of a negotiated plea deal. Harry Maxwell of Delaware County was charged with absentee ballot fraud. In his confession, Maxwell said that he would pick up girls and get them to sign absentee ballots in the names of deceased individuals. He pled guilty to 1 count of forgery, 1 count of false use of an absentee ballot, and 2 counts of criminal conspiracy. He was sentenced to 2 years probation and ordered to pay $500 in fines. Y'all, so the Heritage Foundation, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they have all of these listed. Some of them are pretty wild. I should have bookmarked some of them because I read 2 or 3 this morning that I can't find right now that was so funny. That one about the disguise is pretty funny, though. Like, could you imagine? I would die. I suffer with a conscience. So I would literally die from knowing that I was in the wrong. You know how, like, people steal out of stores? I would have a panic attack and drop before I could steal anything because I would tell on myself. Like, I would be so suspicious. And I could never put on a disguise or do something like that. It's just crazy to me, but it's super funny. Super, super funny. A former police chief of Harmer Township pled guilty to illegally soliciting absentee ballots to benefit his wife and her running mate in the 2009 Democratic primary for town council. Tony applied for the ballots and then had them filled out illegally by individuals not expected to be absent on election day. The absentee ballot count flipped the primary results, securing a victory for Mrs. Tony's running mate. During the subsequent FBI investigation, you done fucked up. You done messed up. During the FBI's investigation, Mr. Tony attempted to prevent witnesses, including 2 grand jury witnesses, from testifying. Tony was sentenced to 3 years probation. Sounds like Tony's a menace. Jesus. Some people, I swear, you give him a little power, and he just went off the deep end, didn't he? He said, I do what I want, I make my own rules. Oh, you know it's bad when the FBI shows up, though, for real. This thing is killing my hand. Let's see if I can. I said a boom shaka. Boom shaka laka. That ain't charging it anyways. I'm not good at moving my phone. There we go. I should like... There we go. Something like that. And this actually does happen quite a bit. The voter fraud videos of people stuffing ballot boxes. There was a city council woman who did it several times, and they got multiple videos of her going from the trunk of her car to the ballot box. And these stacks of ballots were this big, y'all. Like, it was enough for her to carry like this. And she's just putting one after another into the ballot box, and it was fake Democratic votes. So it's not that hard, and it happens all the time. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people feel like these, like, anybody that works for the government, like city workers, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Treasury, everybody just assumes that these workers are ethical and that they're good people. But unfortunately, humans are going to be humans, and there's bad apples everywhere you go. In every industry, there's issues. And not every person that has a badge or a government position is a decent human. It's unfortunate because they should be, but not always. And there was actually, going back to not everybody that has a badge is a good person, there was actually a cop a few years back that was arrested for essaying his subjects, people that were arrested. He would pull them over and then he would essay them. And I can't remember his name. He was, let me see. I think he got 300 years. Daniel Holtzclaw. He ended up receiving, he was sentenced in 2015, convicted for multiple counts of R-word, S battery, and other sexual offenses while on duty. Holtzclaw was convicted of 18 counts of involving 8 different women. He abused his position as an officer. So he would use his position as an officer to run background checks to find information that could be used to coerce victims into sex. It was a really sad case, and the judge noted how heartless this man was and how evil and vile he was to use his position and the tools at his fingertips for law enforcement to do good, how he used those tools for bad and he harmed these women. Now, let's see how many years he got. I want to see how many years he got, and we're going to go over to a new case because, well, if y'all are interested in this, after the video, leave me a comment, please, so that I can, because the live comments don't save on the video. But if you want to hear about this case, I can break it down for you because I know about this case extensively. 263 years is what he was given because of his unethical behavior. I mean, super unethical. Now, back in March, down in New Orleans, there was a girl that went in for emergency services that would ultimately lead to another police officer that was arrested for the same types of crimes. So let me just read you some of this. The 14-year-old did not want to go to the emergency room. Her mother had begged her to go to the emergency room. Her therapist had gently prodded for her to go to the emergency room, and now there was a police officer in her living room. The police officer was coaxing her to think about it. Just think about going to the emergency room. He introduced himself as Officer Rodney Vicnar. His New Orleans Police Department cruiser was waiting outside, ready to take her to the hospital for a rape kit. Earlier that morning, the girl said a 17-year-old friend had forced himself onto her. Under the police department's rules, a case like this was supposed to be handled from the start by a detective trained in sex crimes or child abuse. But it was on this afternoon of May 2020 that Vicnar, a patrol officer with a troubled past, who knocked on the girl's door, he tried to coax her into changing her mind. Quote, "If I'm a young man that has done something wrong to a young lady and she does not follow up and press the issue," he said, "then I'm going to go out and do it to another young lady." So this officer is trying to tell her, like, you need to come to the doctor. We have to do a rape kit. We have to talk to, me. We have to take the police report to help you. And he is trying to tell her that being brave could help other victims. It might actually catch the guy and prevent him from harming more victims. Now, his body camera, this guy, Vicnar, his body camera recorded this whole conversation. He goes on to say, quote, "and it's going to be worse. Maybe the next time he'll think, oh, I got the power and I can go further this time." I guess he was trying to say maybe he might kill a girl or something. So the officer is trying to just talk her into telling the story and going to the hospital to do the kit. The girl didn't want that. She wanted this to just be over. She didn't know It was only the beginning. 4 months later, police would arrest a man for sexually assaulting the girl, but it wouldn't be her teenage friend. It would be the officer, Rodney Vicknair. Vicknair. It's Vicknair if you want to go look it up. The day the 14-year-old met 53 Vicknair was the day the officer began a months-long grooming process, prosecutors would allege. Within hours of meeting the girl, Rodney wrapped his arm around her while they took a selfie. He let her play with his police baton. He joked with her about whipping her behind. And he showed her multiple photos of young women dressed only in lingerie. So weird. See if I can play this and not get a violation. So the teen's face, of course, has been blurred to protect her privacy. What is he saying? I don't even want... Hold on. I'm never going to get you in trouble or give you bad advice, but I kind of... Is that him? Don't trust people that you don't know. Always have your guard up. So he's sitting there talking to her. It looks like her mother was with her then. So how did he get her alone? A legend. I don't know. Let's continue because I didn't read this. I just saw it and read the first few lines. I always like to try to read stuff with you guys if I can. So Americans have been forced to reckon with sexual misconduct committed by teachers, clergy, coaches, and others with access to and authority over children. But there is little awareness of child crimes perpetrated by members of other professions that children are taught to revere and obey. Law enforcement. A Washington Post investigation has found that over the past 2 decades, hundreds of police officers have preyed upon children, while agencies across the country have failed to take steps to prevent these crimes. At least 1,800 state and local police officers were charged with crimes involving children and children abuse from 2005 through 2022. Almost 2,000 people, 2,000 police officers. Abusive officers were rarely related to the children they were accused of R-wording, fondling, or exploiting. They most frequently targeted girls who were 13 to 15 years old and regularly met their victims through their job. Another one that did this was whole cloths. The officer that was sentenced to almost 300 years in prison, he did the same thing. One of the victims was underage and he essentially groomed her. It says these officers were identified through an extensive analysis of the nation's most comprehensive database of police arrests at the Bowling Green State University, as well as a review of thousands of court records and news reports. In case after case, officers intentionally earned the trust of parents and guardians, created opportunities to get kids alone, and threatened repercussions for broken silence. Unlike teachers and priests, they did it all while wielding the power of their badges and guns. There is experts that have come out and stated that the number of these officers getting arrested for these types of crimes are staggering and very troubling. Whatever we can do to prevent this and hold these officers accountable will help restore the trust in the police. Many school systems and churches have created practices and policies to root out our predators. Law enforcement agencies have largely treated child abuse as an isolated problem that goes away when an officer is fired or prosecuted, rather than an always present risk that requires systematic change. There is no national tracking system for officers accused of child abuse. At a time where police departments across the country face staff shortages and are desperate to hire, there are no universal requirements to screen for potential predators. When abuse is suspected, officers are sometimes allowed to remain on the job while investigations of their behavior are left in the hands of their colleagues. So the overall post findings were that over 1,800 officers charged with crimes involving children, abuse from 2005 through 2022, which is astronomical. 13 to 15-year-old girls are often the children targeted by officers, and 90% of victims were not reported to be related to these officers whatsoever. So, you know, this is not an isolated incident. This is a huge problem, and these are members of our community that are supposed to be protected and serving. This is so scary. It says in the New Orleans Police Department, child S-word abuse has been a problem before. The city recently paid $300,000 to settle a lawsuit over its 1980s police explorers program led by a lieutenant who was accused of SA boys exploiting 10 boys sexually. The case was investigated by the head of the NOPD's Juvenile S Crimes Unit, who in 1987 was convicted of child S crimes as well. Pedos, they're all pedos. What the world? In more recent years, 2 officers remained on the force after they were accused of abusing young girls. Then they sexually A-worded other children. Lord have mercy. So 2 officers remained on the force after they were accused of abusing young girls. Then they went on to SA other children. They are among 6 NOPD officers who have been convicted of child S crimes since 2011. Vic Nair is the latest. His case reflects a larger problem that police departments confront in conducting background checks, identifying red flags, and responding to complaints of inappropriate behavior. To reconstruct what happened in New Orleans, the Post obtained hundreds of internal law enforcement records, hours of video footage, and dozens of text messages. Vic Nair was hired in 2007 despite a record that included multiple arrests and a conviction for battery on a juvenile. Wait a second. This man who did all of this was still able to become a cop, and I can't find a job at the Waffle House? Make it make sense. Conviction of battery on a juvenile. He had multiple arrests. His sexually charged interactions with the girl he drove to the hospital, though witnessed by another officer, went unreported to supervisors. He frequently visited the girl's home in the summer of 2020, telling, oh, wasn't it perfect? She was home from school, isolated, parents, you know, like, dude, what a creeper. Poor girl. He frequently visited her at her home in the summer of 2020, telling new cops he was training that they should stay in the car while he went inside alone. So he was isolating her. She was already isolated, but he was getting her by herself. And when concerns about Vic Nair's behavior were reported to the department, police officials allowed him to remain on duty for a week. During that week, the girl said he sexually A-worded her. He has declined to comment. In November of 2022, he pled guilty to violating the girl's civil rights, admitting that he locked her in his truck and touched her under her clothing. The city of New Orleans and its slow down. And the city of New Orleans and its police department also declined to discuss the case with the Post, citing pending litigation. The victim and her mother filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city and the superintendent of the police in 2021. In court filings, the city has repeatedly denied that the police department is responsible for the girl's abuse, arguing that McNair was not on duty at the time of the assault he pled guilty to and was not acting on behalf of the NOPD while performing any of the inappropriate actions alleged against him. He was still a cop. Stop trying to distance yourself and say, oopsie, we messed up. We knew that he had a previous charge for beating a juvenile, but we overlooked that out of desperation to have new cadets in our police academy. Just be honest. It's not that hard. I'm sick of this. Just be honest. Oopsie. You know, these are adults. These are people that are in charge of our safety that are over here making excuses. Soon the case will go before a jury. A trial over what, if anything, the girl is owed by the NOPD was scheduled to begin March 18th, but hours after the Post publicized this story online, a judge ordered that the trial be delayed. So the victim's name is being identified as Nicole. At 14, Nicole was barely 100 pounds. She hadn't yet got braces. A large stuffed giraffe still watched over her bedroom. She spent her preteen years in custody, battles between divorced parents and a domestic shelter with her mom, and in a hospital for self. She believed all adults just wanted to tell her what to do. But on the day that McNair persuaded her to go to the emergency room and then sat with her and her mother for hours, Nicole felt like he actually wanted to listen. So his body cam picked up him giving her his phone number. He says, if you ever just want to shoot me a text and talk, you can. If you're having problems and just need somebody to talk to, if I'm working, I'll come swing by and talk to you, okay? We'll go get some ice cream at McDonald's or something. And I'm sure the mother, I mean, I don't know, but I'm just going to tell y'all that just because somebody wears a badge does not mean that they're safe. Okay? Do not be trusting anybody. Preacher, priest. Y'all know that I got molested by a church member, okay? It was my grandmother's boyfriend, but he was heavy involved in the church. And, you know, just be careful out here because some people use those opportunities to offend. We see it time and time again. So that's how easily he was able to slide in her life. Hold on. I'm about to die. Whew, I don't know what that was. I couldn't breathe all of a sudden. So this says that he was far from the typical police recruit. He worked as an EMT and a hospital security guard, but he was about to turn 40 and an age that would have disqualified him from joining some police departments at the time. At 5'11", he weighed 237 pounds and had lifelong tremors that regularly made his handshake. Why y'all gonna give him a gun then? I don't know, there's more than holding a gun, but you know what I mean? Like, it sounds like he was physically unfit to be a cop, to be chasing suspects, to be getting out of a car and standing on 2 feet. He sounded rough, okay? That's a lot of weight for that short of a man. And that's not short for a guy, but you know what I mean. Let's see. So this is him. Ugh. Bless this baby's heart. God. Yeah. Yep. Alright. You can't see my sign at all. Alright. So it sounds like he wasn't the police department's first pick, but they still hired him, and he applied just as he was about to be aging out from the position, and he wouldn't have qualified for it in the following years, because they only accept recruits, it sounds like, up until the age of 40. So, in his application to the police department, he did disclose that he had previously been charged with disturbing the peace and aggravated assault. Just the year before he applied, deputies from the sheriff's department were called when he reportedly brandished a knife at his ex-girlfriend and beat a man that she was dating. The charges were eventually dropped. So apparently the girlfriend asked the authorities to stop pursuing the case because she was afraid of what he might do if she didn't. During the relationship, she said that McNair had choked her and held a loaded gun to her head. Quote, he had threatened that he would make sure somebody did something to my son, end quote. So this woman was scared for her life and didn't want to continue with charges because she was scared something worse would happen. It says that this incident was not the only time that McNair had been charged with a serious crime. In 1987, he was convicted in a parish of simple battery on a juvenile. A part of his past he did not disclose to the NOPD. He was sentenced to a $50 fine or $10 a day, or 10 days in jail. So he beat the heck out of some kid and nothing was done, essentially. Ooh, the tea. So 3 of McNair's family members told the Post that he was charged after he had what they described as a sexual relationship with a minor. McNair was 20 years old. The girl, whom the Post is not identifying, was a preteen at the time, and she would not respond to the interview's request. There's the arrest record right there. 15th day of April of 1987. And it says, committed a simple battery on one juvenile in violation of LARS 1435. So he was charged, but they still allow him to get this job at the police department. Records now show he was recently punished twice for reckless driving and twice for acting inappropriately towards women who claimed he had mocked or harassed them while he was on duty. The most severe consequence he received was a 5-day suspension. In 2016, he was promoted to become a mentor for new officers while he patrolled the neighborhood, where he would later meet Nicole, the victim. So it seems like it says he texted the 14-year-old girl, and he started texting her in May 26th of 2020. He started messaging her the night he met her by sending her a GIF of a waving puppy. In the weeks that followed, he began showing up at her house in uniform. He'd sip a Dr. Pepper while talking about the headlines on Fox News. He'd lecture Nicole about staying out of trouble. Nicole's mother, Rain, witnessed it all. The Post, hold on. So this woman says that she'd grown up with a sheriff's deputy for a grandfather. She trusted law enforcement and raised her daughter to feel the same way. So Rain encouraged McNair to follow up on his idea to take Nicole out for ice cream. She called him when Nicole was having a breakdown. She invited him to visit Nicole on her 15th birthday. Girl, stop! No! Stranger danger! I don't give a crap if he's a cop. He ain't your grandpa. He'll never be your grandpa. He's a pedo. Rain didn't worry when she discovered that the 53-year-old officer was talking to her daughter on the phone late at night that summer. She was grateful that Nicole, who had become silent and surely in the weeks following her SA report, was finally opening up to someone who could be a role model. No, girl, no. Trying to figure out what he'd do. Oh. So he would be like sending her pictures of him with animals in his uniform. He was like, "You're running through my mind." He asked her if she owned any booty shorts. Bro. He then started to say that he could report her mother for child endangerment and get her thrown in jail. So here comes the blackmail, the aimless threats, and it's just crazy that, I don't know. Don't be naive. And, you know, you have to look at people's motives, and yeah. This is not what a normal officer does. And I'm sure that they actually have rents. I don't know. I mean, she was reporting. She said that a 17-year-old boy had assaulted her at her home on the morning of... So you've already been assaulted once. And then this officer comes into your life and starts grooming you and would later go on to assault you. On the morning in May, the mother discovered her daughter on the couch with her 17-year-old friend. Two other patrol officers were the first to be dispatched to the report of attempted murder at her house. It was 5:21 a.m. The teenage boy had already fled. Records show the officers spent 11 minutes at the house before leaving. They were to take no further action. It's always going to be somebody you know, a family member, maybe somebody they've met in passing like this. It's just so scary. And then he starts threatening this child. If you tell anybody that I'm grooming you, then I'm going to take your mother to jail. If you tell anybody what we're talking about, I'm going to take your mother to jail. Oh, wow, there's pictures of them together. This man is over here visiting her at her home. This is so creepy. Look at this. This is not okay. This man needs to be in prison. Prison. One-way ticket to prison. For forever. Maybe not forever, but for a damn long time. And he needs to be on a watch list. Registered sex offender. He's over here telling this child that she has a nice A word. Like, no, this is not okay. Apparently, he was taking pictures of her. Lord. So it sounds like the police department found out that this officer, it says that that the Integrity Bureau was brought in. A criminal investigation started with the Public Integrity Bureau, and they began to look into him. This investigators first spoke with Nicole and her mother, and they could tell that the child was scared to talk about this officer. She was afraid to speak up, and that she called him her friend and was clearly trying to protect him at the time. They were not certain that the SA had already occurred, but the red flags about the officer's behavior were obvious. And these investigators were scared and did not know exactly how much access to this child he had had and to other children that he had worked cases for. It says the entire week that they were doing this investigation, this is what pisses me off. He kept his job. He kept his badge. He kept his gun. It took 7 days 7 days to get this, you know, to get him laid off. He should immediately have been sent home on leave pending investigation until they knew what was going on and if she had been assaulted. And she in fact had. I'm reading what happened. He assaulted her multiple times. And they found evidence of that in his truck because he's nasty and left used underwear everywhere. So it sounds like he knew he was going to be arrested. When the officers showed up to arrest him, he actually came out with a lit set in his boxer briefs and put his hands immediately behind his back. He switched from denying it to explanations for what he couldn't deny. Yes, he had gone to Nicole's house just before midnight 2 nights earlier, but only because she asked him to sniff her and see if she smelled like weed. See how he's trying to degrade the victim, take the blame away from himself. Oh, she was a young kid smoking weed. Like, give me a break. One of the investigators says the issue is that we have a 52-year-old man visiting a 15-year-old girl and going to see this 15-year-old girl regularly. He says that he talks to lots of younger people 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. He was finally arrested in 2020, his little jumpsuit. Good. About time. Trying to figure out how much he got. 14 years. So his sentence was 14 years. Nicole's age when he met her. I'm glad that they got him behind bars because he would have continued to do that to other girls. I just wonder if he got into law enforcement with the intent of harming girls. I mean, it just makes you wonder how many other girls haven't came forward. How many other girls went through the same exact grooming and do not recognize that it was grooming. Sorry, I was looking at the Hall's Claw thing, and it's just the picture that they have where he's like crying. It's not funny, but like it kind of is. Like, be a douche canoe. And thank you to whoever came up with that. I love that so much. So it says that he was a serial R-wordist. I don't see how many victims he had. 8 women, all black, between late 2013 to June of 20, between June of late 2013 and June 2014. I want to go over that case and study that one and tell you guys about that, the Daniel Holzcliffe. I'm not saying that right. He was like an American little, he was like a little American football player, and then he had like the American dream, and then like, you know, his mom and dad were supposedly really happy family, and he was supposed to be this great guy who after high school went on to the police academy and was doing all of these great things in his community, and come to find out he was assaulting women, and he was probably one of the worst serial you-know-whats that we've ever seen, and he had a gun and badge. And it's really scary to think, I told you guys that night that officer rolled on me out at the river, and he was like hitting on me, and that really scared me, being out on a country road, there's nobody out there, and then I have this officer in my face hitting on me. He says, you sure are pretty, or he says, you look good too. That's what he said. He said something, and I was like, yes sir, have a good night. He was like, you look good too. And at that point my eyes are big as saucers, and I'm like, and then he says, I bet your boyfriend's real happy digging for information. And I said, he is. Y'all know I've been single for years. I was like, let me get out of here before, I was really creeped out by it. But, yeah, thanks for coming to Talk It Too. I found a lot of those very interesting. The voter fraud things, we need to talk about that more and talk about how often that actually happens. And, yeah, that's just really scary. But once again, the Heritage Foundation has all of that information on their website, so you can actually go and see what's true and what's not, as far as if it's possible to fake a whole election. And from that, I can see that it would not be hard if you had, a couple million people that got together, all with the plan of faking hundreds of votes. You could fake a whole election. But that is a federal offense, and so I hope that y'all are not out here getting involved in anything like that. I definitely want y'all to get out and vote, but don't get out and commit voter fraud. Please don't do it. I gotta run in here and use the ladies' room for sure. I hope that y'all have a good afternoon, and we might go live later and do some grocery shopping. I think a little bit left on my, I think I have like some money on my food stamp card to grab something for like dinner. I need to grab like something, fruits, vegetables, some kind of protein. So I'll probably live and talk with you later about that. And thank y'all for coming to the news. I had a great time. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I love you guys, and pray, because God knows I need it, and I am praying for y'all.